Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. I'm Gimli and tonight I'll be joined by, first up, stuck in the mini cheddar with you, it's our producer, Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
I see what you did there, and it's very clever. Well done.
Do you know, every week it just gets more slick.
Well, whilst we've been fucking around with you telling us of your fish hijack story, I get two large cheddar. I've moved on from the mini cheddars. I'm on the full-size biscuits. 2 biscuits, chew them up, mouthful of Pepsi Max. Oh, it's orgasmic.
I tried the same thing at a fish and chip shop, but I burned my hand. People won't get this at all.
No.
Next up, from She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, it's our resident ray of sunshine, Gav. You can tell what mood I was in when I wrote these this afternoon, can't you?
Yeah.
Look at him. Are you alright, Gav?
Yeah, come on, chop. Let's get on with it.
Alright. Right, next up, still drunk from Madrid's Copa del Rey win yesterday, it's our grumpy Venezuelan John. Hello, John.
Hello, lads. How you doing?
Very good.
I think we're all good, thank you very much.
A la Madrid.
And finally, all the way from Australia, it's our special guest, Physio Dom. Hello, Dom.
How are we, lads?
Oh, struggling.
We're not struggling, we're doing well.
It's taken us half hour to get to this.
Very good.
And poor old Dom, he's just been sat there in the background, he's barely said a word, it's just been me chatting shit for the last 10 minutes.
30 fucking minutes and, stolen fish later.
Yes.
And poor old Dom hasn't even been to bed yet in the land of Australia.
That's a shame. They shouldn't have such wonky times over there. Hello to all our Australian listeners. We'll start tonight by going over to Danny for all the latest scores from Arsenal across the board and an injury report. Danny.
Oh, here we go. This is getting longer every week. All the stuff is taken from George's site, arsenalyouth.wordpress.com. It's good to see that when I was doing this today, that the Arsenal official site still hasn't updated last night's absolutely amazing win that we've played top of the league. Which I'll start with the under-18s, yeah. We played top of the league all season, Fulham, went to their place, beat them 4-1, which is absolutely brilliant. It's meant to be a tough game, as like I said, they've been top all season, and but we've had a very decent last few weeks, and we walloped them. And we got 2 goals from Maureen Littman. George Dobson got 1, Tyrell Robinson got 1, and we had a trialisting goal. Oh, fuck it, Chelsea have just scored. Absolutely brilliant result. But like George says in his write-up about the game, that some of the players from Fulham had gone away for the Dallas Cup, but they're still joint top of the league, which is a half-decent run now for the under-18s. That's 6 wins in their last 11 games, which you think, well, that's not too bad. But then when you consider before that, they'd had 17 games without a single win. Our next game is at home to Wolves on the 25th of April, and the final game of the season is away at West Ham. So well done, the under-18s, for spanking Fulham. Then we move on to the under-21s. This Monday we had a bad result, which ended 4-0 to Leicester as they come to our place. But George says in the match report, Arsenal were without several key players due to first team and FA Youth Cup commitments, which they're playing tonight. So that's kind of understandable why we lost 4-0 at home, and Leicester are mid-table. Then we're playing Chelsea again in the under-21s in the league this coming Tuesday. Platinum, Gold, Silver, Red and Junior members all get in for free. And if you're not one of those, it's £4 for adults, £2 for kids. And the final game of the season is away at Newcastle a week tomorrow. And tonight, as I'm watching live on channel ITV4, it's the Arsenal youth be the Chelsea youth. The first leg we lost 2-1. The second leg is at Ashburton. And there's a few people that we know that are there. And we're losing 1-0 after coming up to 19 minutes. That's 3-1 on aggregate, so we're going to have to score 3 goals to go through on the away goals, to their away goals. Either way, Chelsea have probably got £50 billion worth of players on the pitch, so there's no reason why they shouldn't hammer us. The ladies, the season has started at last. Hurrah, I hear you shout. On Sunday, we played Gillingham in the FA Cup and won 2-0, and we've all heard of Kelly Smith, probably one of the greatest Arsenal female lady players. Female lady? Female and lady players. I know what I mean there. Yeah. She's 35.
It's been a while since you've seen one of them, hasn't it, Dan?
Well, no, I've got the internet. Thank you very much.
Okay.
She's 35. Grand old age of 35 and scored 2 goals, beat them 2-0. We've got Birmingham in the next round. And they're the team that beat us in the Champions League. They beat us 2-0 and 1-0. So normally we'd have thought that Birmingham would have beat them, but not got too much hope for that. The actual season, like I was saying just before, that started at the weekend. Yesterday, we beat June 1-1 with Notts County, with Alex Scott, the defender, scoring after 54 minutes, the equaliser. We are top of the league in there with 1 point because only 4 teams played. They all drew, and we're top of the goal scoring charts with 1 goal as well. So that's a great way to start the season. If I'm a little bit distracted because I'm reading this and I'm watching the football at the same time, which is why I keep forgetting what I'm saying.
Naughty.
But as you come to expect from the Arsenal site, I made a note of, there's no match report. Why the hell is there no match report? That's disgraceful. Our next game is at home to Man City on the 18th of May, 2 p.m. We play at Boreham Woods Ground. So then we move on to the injuries, all taken from arsenalreport.com/injury room and physio room. I've gone to the 2 of them to get some stuff. Due back any day now. Diaby, I'll do that when I see it. Gnabry with his knee injury. Ozil with his hamstring. Monreal with a knock. Back on the 26th of April-ish is Gibbs, who had a bit of a knock. And then in 3 weeks, it's Wilshere. Out for the season is Ryo, and Walcott is 2 months with a cruciate ligament. I managed to get through all of the injuries bit without fucking it up because I completely ignored the telly, and it's still 1-0. There you go. Done.
Thank you very much. We have 2 games to cast our eyes over this evening, and we'll start with our Wembley win over Wigan. Dom, the newbie, I'm going to start over with you this evening. What did you make of the game?
I did not enjoy the Wigan game one iota. The whole time I was shitting bricks, to be honest. My arse was twitching like a rabbit's nose. So I was pretty happy by the time Santi's penalty went in. My sphincter snapped shut so tight you could have used it as a cigar cutter. And
some of these will be plagiarised in future pods by Gimli.
That's all right. And as soon as the penalty went in, I was happy after that. But I really didn't enjoy the game at all, to be honest.
No. Danny, your analysis, please.
Oh, it's not much of analysis, just it was utter bollocks. My daughter was here watching the game with me, wondering while I was screaming, effing and blinding at the telly that we were struggling to do anything against a half-decent League 1, Division 2 side. I'll say the Division 2. 27 shots on goal we had. And then I thought their goalkeeper, well, we're looking for a goalkeeper in the summer, aren't we? We could do with someone like that. Carson, half-decent goalie. I think he was at Liverpool for a while. Because we had a plethora of England goalkeepers that had 1, 2, 3 games, and everyone was having them, and then there's so many of them I lose count of who they were. But we had 9 shots on target, 11 off target. The woodwork hit twice, and he saved what's his name? I just said Carson blocked 7 of those shots between him and his defence. I thought it was absolutely atrocious. I think the penalty was definitely a penalty. He was unlucky to give it away, but I think when we're panicking, things like that happen. But then you knew, I said to my daughter, you watch, Mertesacker was going to score, because I don't use Twitter during the game. Mertesacker was going to score from a header at some point. She didn't hear me say header. When he scored, I went, yeah, see, told you. Thought he was fantastic. Nice to see Ramsey start and do well. But I was a little bit concerned that Ramsey has been out since Christmas and he comes back straight away and he's playing best part of 2 hours of football, maybe even a little bit more because he did a bit of standing still. The Ox was brilliant as usual. Just how the hell do they get the Ox to be so up for the first half and everyone not bother? And the second half, Ox has run himself senseless. And the rest of the team, they try and catch up with how he was. Podolski was a little bit quiet, which I was surprised with. But it just amazes me that, yet again, in a game we really need to win, this has been one of our most important games of the season, and he starts no goals to no go up front, which is so much pressure on the young lad. You should have started with Giroud and then bring Sonogo on at the end. That's what you do when a player first starts at a club. You don't chuck him in unless he's a multi-million-pound player, which he isn't. We only paid €300,000 compensation for the bloke. And for such an important game. And then the next game against West Ham, kind of meaningless because we're always going to beat West Ham. He plays Giroud up front. It should have been the other way around for me. And I was just really fucking annoyed with it. But we won on penalties. Fabianski was absolutely genius. And hopefully that's the last game Fabianski will ever play for us. Because we're going to talk a little bit about it here later. But yeah, that's the end. No one looks back at the semi-finals, but Martin Keown was on Talk Sport recently, and he was listing all the semi-finals he played in, and he said we scraped through most of them. And I remember the 1-0 at Aston Villa's ground, we beat Wolves 1-0 with a Christopher Ray goal. That was a close one. And we've had quite a few close semi-finals, so maybe he had a point that was just unlucky, but we're there, and that's all that matters.
And you touched on Sonogo. I know in our WhatsApp group we were quite critical of him. Gav, what did you make?
Slightly.
What did you make of Sonogo's performance on the day?
He's just not like I say, he's 21. If he was 17, 18, then you'd give him a bit of a chance and say he's got to have a few games to bed in and all that. But I just don't think he looks anything like a footballer. I don't think he's got any remote skill or touch or instinct or absolutely anything about him at all. And I just can't understand it, how it's got to the point where one of the biggest games we've played in a hell of a long time, he's playing for us. We might as well have been playing with 10 men, if I'm being fair. All this, he holds the ball up well and he bullies people and all that. Bollocks, he's a centre forward. Do you want him to score?
Yeah, you being fair, Gav. But John, you were one of the people in the group that actually not sung his praises but defended him. Can you explain in some way why?
Well, I wasn't defending him per se as, his overall performance. I just think that everybody's being a little harsh. This is his 5th match in the shirt. It's not his fault that, Wenger and the rest, didn't address the striker position in, the past, 3 windows. That's not his fault. Best case scenario, he would have came in the summer on a free and should have left right away on loan to get minutes, to get, adjusted to the kind of play in England. He offers more pace than Giroud does. He has better link-up play. I agree with, Gav. He's really awkward. I think, it's not that he's not any good. It's that he makes everything he does look so ugly because he's so tall and lanky. He's just a very awkward player. Does that translate into him, not progressing or being better in the future? I don't know. But I just think that, the criticism of him up to this part, to this point is a bit harsh. He played, part in the Everton game and the Liverpool match as well, in the FA Cup, and we won both of those. He didn't do too badly against Bayern before, we went behind in that match. So and that was his debut. I just think we're being a little harsh on that.
And do you think that from what you've seen so far, he has a future with Arsenal? And
I think that he needs a loan, just like we've talked about other people on that are being counted upon that shouldn't be counted upon, need a loan. One that we've talked about before is Jenkinson. I think these types of situations in our approach with these young players has been, a little far-fetched to think that you're going to throw them in the deep end and they're going to perform right off the bat. That's what you do with multi-million-pound signings, not with players you get on a free or, for £1 million or less.
Without a loan, do you think that you could argue that some of these players, i.e. like you've just mentioned, Jenkinson, are classed as dead wood?
Let's put it this way. If you're going into an FA Cup final, Sonia gets hurt, are you comfortable with Jenkinson at right back?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I am. I like Jenkinson.
So do I.
Sangler's playing well at the moment, but to be fair, Jenkinson does put a better ball over than him.
And he's better than Sonia.
Yeah. But he gets caught out by position, and that's something that you can teach a 21-year-old defender. Knowing where the goal is, I think you should know where that is by the time you're 21. And knowing how to actually control the ball, I think you should know where that is by 21. And if you're looking at the skill and and how they actually sort of account themselves on the pitch, I'd much rather have Jenkinson than Sonogo.
Well, I think to compare a right back to a striker is a little bit much, but what I'm saying is, if you look at a couple of Sonogo's touches, they were some cheeky touches that he made. They weren't so lacking in skill as some made out. Like I said, is he who should be on the pitch at this point? No, absolutely not. But that's more of a failure of Arsene Wenger's transfer policy than of putting all the blame on Sonogo. And I think that's where, you have to direct it at somebody, and, it's 50-50. Who do you blame, the player or the manager everybody loves?
No.
What do you think? You said that he's only played a few games. He played 2 games since, and then he's played 8 since he's come back from his injury. So, like you said, he's not played many games. So why do you think Wenger is playing him up front in such important games?
Well, I mean, you
Nobody
have.
else.
There's nobody else. Yeah, I mean, Bettner is crocked. Park is, on loan, and before then, as Steve has said before, and Gav, mentioned in our WhatsApp group, that's a tax write-off, so you can't play him. It's just a ridiculous situation that we've created, between injuries and non-performance. We're depending on a kid that just came back from an 18-month injury.
I mean, why would he play him in the FA Cup semi-final, the game we have to win, and then a few days later not play him against West Ham? Don't you think it should have been the other way round? That Giroud should have started the FA Cup semi-final, and then Sonogo should have started against West Ham, where he's got more chance of scoring a goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So my point is, why do you think he's doing it?
Why does Wenger do half the shit that he does?
There you go. That's something up, hasn't it?
He's always done that though. He's always prioritised the league over the FA Cup. He's done it from day one, and he will always do that, even when it comes to a semi-final. But, he's done it before in semi-finals, and he done it. It was no real shock, really.
Credit where it's due, though. He went 4-4-2.
I've noticed that, and he did it in the part of the game against West Ham as well, didn't he? And it looked like it worked there.
It didn't have a lot of choice because we didn't actually have anybody else on the bench.
A couple of right
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we had a couple of right backs and a couple of 17-year-olds, and that was about it on the bench, wasn't it? There was no game changer on the bench, and at 1-0 down, he had to go for it. In both games, really. I mean, and credits where it's due.
But he did it.
But he held it on.
We always talk about how he doesn't do it during matches, but he finally did it. So, maybe there's a silver lining to all of it,
Hopefully.
Right then, let's get back on track then. And Danny Fabianski, do you think that he should really be offered a new contract, or do you think the right thing for him to do is go? I mean, some might say that it's not beyond the squad's depth to have 2 brilliant goalkeepers in it, and Fabianski really did show his class.
I think he certainly did, and he's been with us for quite a long time now. And I think that anybody in his position is going to be thinking, well, I'm getting on a bit now. He's 18th of April is his birthday, so he's 29 tomorrow, and so Szczesny, they share the same birthday. Don't know what Polish is for happy birthday, but there you go. I'm sure Steve will let us know later. He'll be angry.
Don't offend anybody by even trying it.
No, I'm not going to. But he's 29 tomorrow, and he's got a chance to go and play. I think Schalke are the team that he's been linked with. They're 3rd in the Bundesliga, and with the hammering that Eintracht Frankfurt, I think it's Eintracht, that got hammered the other night by Bayern, it looks like they're going to be playing Champions League football next season. So he's going to be going there. They was linked to them in the January transfer window. And not only do I think that he should go just for his own sake, because he's only got maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe at the top left. Go, because you're never going to. He's too good to be a number 2, and I think there's got to be some kind of. He's got to be a little bit pissed off with the situation, because even when last season, when Szczesny wasn't playing that well, he still didn't get in, and this season Szczesny has been outstanding, and I don't think that he should play the cup final either, because someone made a really good point. I don't know if it was on the pod or I read it on Twitter, that if Fabianski does play the FA Cup final and we win it, then next season Szczesny is going to be the only first team member without having won anything. And I would say, I don't care what Fabianski wants, it's got to be for squad harmony next season. Szczesny has got to start the FA Cup final. Has to. Because he said he wants to play, doesn't he? I mean, if he comes out and says he wants to play, then it's even more. I mean, if he was like a lot of us when we get older, we're going, go on, mate, you've done well for the club, you go and play in the FA Cup final, even though you're not going to play. But I think he has to play, because the sheer squad harmony of it all next season, and he's going to feel, he's going to be pissed off. So yeah,
it's not going to happen though, is it?
No, it won't happen. No,
it won't happen. Do you know what I mean, no matter what we think's the right thing to do, he's gonna play Fabianski in the final.
Yeah, and he's one of the best young goalkeepers that we've had at the club. I mean, when was the last time we had someone at the club who was that young, that was that good? I mean, he's 24 tomorrow. Normally, you don't even buy a half-decent goalkeeper until he's in his mid-20s.
That's very true. Dom, what do you make of the Fabianski situation?
Well, he's definitely good enough to be playing first-team football somewhere, so you can't really begrudge the guy for wanting to move on somewhere to be able to do that. As far as the situation with the final goes, I agree. I think we should be playing Szczesny. Fabianski's gonna, well, if all goes well, win the FA Cup and then sneak off on a free, and Szczesny's going to be sitting there on the bench watching. So I'd be playing Szczesny just because I think it would be better for the squad overall in the long term, for sure.
Mm. Yes, I think I'd probably agree with you on that one. Our next topic that I wanted to bring up was Mertesacker. I think I said to you boys while the final was actually being played that I wanted to call this podcast Mertesacker's Semi, wasn't it? Mertesacker's Semi at Wembley. Just because he was such an influential character throughout the game, swinging it towards the way of Wigan and then bringing it back towards us. I think he probably showed every bit of desire needed to be the future captain of Arsenal. Is that something you'd agree with, John?
He's definitely the leader on the field right now. Do you give it to him over, a Ramsey that has shown that he's, willing to do everything for the team, play in any position, take himself out of, his preferred places? At this point in time, I would say yes. But, do you threaten the team harmony by giving it to Mertesacker now just to switch it in a year or two? I think we need a little bit of stability in that role. I mean, after Cesc, then Van Persie, then, Vermaelen, I think we're changing, way too much. I think we need to have somebody that's going to be with us long term.
Gav, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, much agree with what John said there, really. I mean, we need somebody who's going to come in and be captain for the next sort of 5-6 years, and Mertesacker's not going to be that person. Personally, I think it's going to be down to the new manager in the summer to decide who he wants to play. 'Cause, I mean, whoever's captain's got to be the first name on the team sheet as well. So hopefully the new boss for next season will come up with a good idea for that one.
That's an awfully bold statement you've just made there, Gav. Do you know something that we don't?
I don't know. I know nothing.
Oh, he's a tease, isn't he?
Oh, he's a dirty boy.
He's the soup Nazi of the group. No Arsenal for you.
None.
No, go away. Fuck off.
Right then. Now we've spoken a little about Wigan, we'll move on to the next game, which is actually the final, and we'll talk about this. First of all, I think the question that you got to chuck out is, can we beat them? Dom, I'll go over to you again.
Hull in the final.
Mm-hmm.
We should beat them. I don't see why not. We should have some players back by then as well. Not only should some players be back, but they should have a little bit of match fitness under their belts. You would think, hopefully, if Ramsey's managed well, by the time the final comes around, he'll be nice and fit. And same with Ozil coming back this weekend. If he can get through the next few weeks and get some match fitness under his belt, then he should be starting and being able to put in a full shift. So we saw instantly, as soon as Ramsey came on in the West Ham game the other night, how much of an influence he has and just how much the team dynamic changes, and they just look more dangerous with him on the pitch. So I think with him and Ozil back in the team, even Giroud starts to look a little bit better as well. He's starting to, I think he'll benefit from having that little bit more of an attacking service from those two players. So I think we'll win. I don't see why not.
And Danny, bar the people who we knew were written off for the season, is that a fully fit squad for the final?
For us, I think it's going to have to. It will be. But there again, we've got 4 league games between now and then. Anybody could their legs could fall off. They could be trained too hard. They could do the usual where they've done an injury or hurt themselves and they just carry on going. And until Dom is hired by Arsenal to get in there and drum it into those idiots that if there's anything wrong with you, as slightest knock, you stop and you come off, because we're not going to have any more of you muppets carrying on and then being out for 6 months because you didn't know when to stop. But I'm looking. We're playing Hull this Sunday. It's 2:05 kick-off away at Hull, and I don't rate Hull at all. I'm just looking at their this season, their top players, and I think their top goal scorer is, they've got 1 on 4. Oh, it's got Matty Fryatt with 5 goals. And then you've got another midfielder, Brady, on 4. Yannick Sagbo, he's got 4. And then they've just got a whole load of players all on 4 goals. So it's always quite a good sign from a good team that if you're scoring from all over the place, which is what we tend to be doing when all of our team is fit, we don't have just one player who we're relying on for all the goals, which is a bit like Liverpool, where they only have really one or two players that's going to score them goals, and when they both play at the same time, only one of them scores. They're going to probably prove me wrong by doing that.
But we should be able to analyse the final with an Ozil watch for the next podcast, I think. So
be delightful.
Did you hear the delight in Gav's voice then? How much of a difference is that going to be to have Ozil back for the final, John?
It's going to be huge. I mean, I think Hull has done what they've done this year due to their, the way they set up for, their matches. They're going to be hard to break down. But, more than doable. I think, with Ozil back, Ramsey, there's talk that Diaby is going to be back for the final.
What a way to finish his career, though, eh? If he comes on as a sub, even if we win, it'd be brilliant.
A possibility of Jack coming back as well. I mean, talent-wise, I think we're on paper, you bet us 9 times out of 10. Just the fact that we're going to have very influential players back, I think is going to make the difference for us. So, one thing that you guys have to understand too, I think Hull, as I was reading, Hull has the top 2 strikers were loans and they're cup tied as well. So,
you never know, Spurs might do us a favour and recall Huddleston from being on loan there as well.
So I don't see it as a big challenge, but it's something that we have to see through and finish. And, given, the Carling Cup a few years ago, let's not break down like that again, get this done and, concentrate on bigger and better things.
I don't think it matters too much if Pubed plays, Danny. But, Gav, if we do win the FA Cup, do you restart your love affair with Arsene Wenger? Or has he still got to
go? My views aren't going to change just because, he's won something.
He's not a fair weather hater.
No.
He's in it for the long haul.
Well, it's like saying, why would him winning the FA Cup change how I feel about him?
I wouldn't change me either. I'm with you 100% on there.
Why would it? Why would it? What changes?
A lot of the people that are calling for his head are because he's not won a trophy. I mean, your main people that are arguing.
It's not just the fact that he hasn't won a trophy. It's just the manner of how the team is run and how the club is run, which is just slowly going down and down. I mean, I hope to God, I hope we go out and win it. Nothing will give me greater pleasure than, the Sunday after the FA Cup final to see us absolutely packed and having a party. That's what it's all about. That's what we're missing. That's why we go football for the good times. But obviously, you've got to accept the bad times at the same point. But
my question I have a question for Gav, if I could.
Yeah, go on.
We didn't early in the season. I asked you a question, which was, if we went through the season, still got made top 4, but won the FA Cup, if you'd be happy with that, considered a successful season. Do you still feel that way? Because you said yes.
Yeah, the problem is he's
got you there, Gav.
No, I mean, he's correct. I mean, I was actually trying to find my predictions from the start of the season, which I'd done on a blog around August, September time, and I said, look, we'd finish fourth. I think I said we'd finish third and, hopefully have a good cup run. But, so like I say, I mean, getting fourth isn't a trophy. It only matters to money, the money side of the game, and obviously with that attracting better players, etc. I don't see, it shouldn't be we've got, aiming for fourth. We should be aiming for first, and that's where we were in January. A couple of shrewd buys in January, we could still be talking about being in the title race.
Definitely.
But that doesn't answer the question, which is fourth in the FA Cup.
For Arsene Wenger, fourth place in the FA Cup is a bloody successful season for him, but it's not good enough.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. We should be going for trophies. But my question, and question B, part B of my question, excuse me, is this: are we not competing? We were there half of the season, first, second. And if it weren't for injuries, despite what a lot of people say, if it weren't for injuries, I think that we would still be up there with the current squad without making any purchases in January. Which for me was ridiculous that we didn't make any purchases. But I think it took, a lot of things for us to come off that perch where we were competing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, but the problem is this isn't the first time that we've come to the transfer window in January, knowing that, a couple of decent buys, we could go on to challenge for the title, and we haven't had them couple of buys. So like I say, it's just a case of this season with regards to the league. It is a bit of history repeating itself. How many more seasons do we want history to repeat itself for? And, let's get, you've got to look at it as well. Look, he's not a young man anymore. He's getting on in age. There's younger coaches coming up with new ideas, better ideas. I'm sure Dominic will go on a bit later about the physio side of the game and how that's probably changed in the last 10, 15 years since he's been at our club. So, like I say, my hope, and I do really hope, because it would be such a shame for anything else but for Wenger to go out on a high. And that's what I think he should do. I think he should, hopefully get us in the Champions League spots for next year, win the FA Cup, bow out on a high. Bow out gracefully on a high. And
as much as I agree with you, Gav, this season we were top for 20 out of 21 consecutive weeks. Yeah. Do you not think that the foundations are there to build on? I mean, I agree with you. I'd chauffeur drive him out and say thank you very much.
It's easy to say that, but the only week that matters being at the top of the league.
It's the last.
It's the last one. I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, this is like it's what Tottenham supporters used to say. Oh, we was top after 4 games and blah blah blah. It's all bollocks.
In 1961.
The only thing that matters is where you finish.
Yeah.
And that's a true reflection on how well you've done that season. And it looks like with Palace doing Everton the other day that we've got a good chance of finishing the Champions League spots. But it's still how our season's sort of fallen apart. And we all knew it would because, when we looked at the fixture list, and, I've said this before on the podcast, that, the fixtures were kind to us for the first part of the season. And we all knew that February and March, the fixtures, January and February, the fixtures weren't going to be that great. And, everybody turned us over, and everybody turned us over by 3 or 4 goals. So, like I say, I just can't see him change. I can't see anything that Arsene Wenger's done differently this year to the last 2 or 3 years that should actually, credit him for the fact that he's going, to quote the club, forwards. I just don't think he's going forwards.
I will say that Gav said that by season's end we'd be 7 points off top.
Yeah. And everyone laughed at me.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Got a question for you, Gim. Do you think with Man City's current lack of form, with 2 draws, a loss and a win, we're now only 4 points behind them, and with 4 easy games, well, theoretically 4 easy games, it's 4 games we've got left, isn't it? Yeah, 4 games left. Gim, do you reckon we can catch Man City? Because Man City are having an appalling run. 4 points behind, they've got 1 game in hand.
To be honest with you, I'm not even looking at Man City. I'm just trying to get that 4th place in the bag. I think that is really integral to our season to be in the Champions League.
Does anyone else think we can maybe catch City?
No.
Because they've got a couple of tough games.
I mean, you've got to hope that they get something against Everton just to make it easier for ourselves.
Well, I'm looking at City's last games. They're home to West Brom, away at Palace, so that's a Palace win because they're the form team, away at Everton, home to Villa, home to West Ham. I reckon they could drop enough points there for us to catch them.
Do you know what? I'd rather let my cat lick cat food off my bollocks before I see.
You were told about that.
Before I see the Scouse win a Premier League.
Oh,
could you imagine it? They haven't shut up about the Champions League yet. Could you imagine a lot of cunts? They'd just be unbearable. It can't happen.
They're still talking about the Carling Cup they won on pens.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I thought it was nice that the memorial for the 25 years that they had this week. It was nice when I made a little thing about the 2 tragedies at Ibrox and the tragedy at Bradford, and I think there was one at Bolton. And I think I was the only person who mentioned that.
We'll move on then, and our next game sees us talk about West Ham on Tuesday. The result 3-1 on the night, and my first question to Danny would be, did the scoreline flatter us? I know you've done a full analysis of this game, haven't you?
I thought I will, not that I don't take the thing seriously, but I tend to try and do what happened in the game from memory. And I thought so much happened in that game, I had to write it down. So some of this I'm writing and some of this I'm ad-libbing. Right, so first half we looked scared and lacking confidence, but Santi, Lucas and Rosicky kept on pushing, which is, I thought that was a really, really impressive thing from Rosicky. I think that's why he had to go off in the second half, because he'd run his little arse off. But Santi looked stunning the entire game. The attacking, which was also an important point. And then I thought, as soon as they scored, the Fat Sam would bring out the Fat Sam bus, 2 or 3 of them, or he'd sit in front of goal on his own and take it all up like a giant mustachioed. No, it's gone now, isn't it?
Eating a cheeseburger.
Oh, chewing at 500 RPM. It just gets on my fucking nerves, a big fat shit. And then they think they're going to fill that new stadium when they get there. Fucking hell, are they? No chance. Yeah, and then there's usually the usual thing where they go in just before half-time and we manage to score. Now, that was probably the most important part of the game for me, just before half-time, and they score. Someone's writing stuff. Okay, yeah. Right, stop writing stuff, otherwise I have to read it, because it could be important saying, help, I'm on fire. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're muted, you shitbag, because you're writing stuff. Stop it.
Yeah, I know.
Don't write it unless it's important.
I'm like special needs. I've got heavy fingers.
Anyway, yeah, so the most important part of the game for me was when we scored just before half-time, because if we'd have gone in there 1-0 down for the second half, they'd have come out, they'd have had 15 men in defence, so we'd have stood no chance. But scoring that goal just before half-time was so crucial to the second half. And then once we scored that, the West Ham, they were just shit. And then what did I put here? It's the third time this season that Podolski's played the full 90 minutes, which is another thing. It just shows that he can. I know you want to mention later about Podolski, but it's the only other games he's played the full 90 minutes for Sunderland at home in the Premier League and Bayern away in the Champions League. And this season he's now got 10 goals, 4 assists in 22 games, of which he's only started 9 games. Now that's, I get grief all the time for saying Podolski can play up front, but those kind of they're better than bloody Sonogo, and Sonogo starts our most important games. So to summarise this lot, I just wrote down the plus points from the game. 1-0 down, 3-1 up. It almost sounds like a great name for a fanzine. Santi on form yet again, because people were groaning that when I said Santi was looking like he did last season, and I was explaining that when Ozil plays, Santi isn't allowed to do that role. No Ozil, Santi's like the player he was last season, which is absolutely brilliant. Podolski scoring goals, that's another fantastic point. We've had, I did this infograph that Dorkley went and changed, where I put the games this season and the players that scored. We seem to have players that were scoring bunches all season, apart from Giroud, who's been scoring on and off all season. But it looks like Podolski's the player at the moment who's scoring us a few goals and looks really dangerous. Ramsey was really, really good. I'm not sure there was any need to bring him on again, because he played 2 hours in the semi-final. There's no need to bring him on for this. There's other players on the bench. I thought Chimmerstrom, he played absolutely brilliantly. It's great to see someone in midfield who's a bit like Flamini, where he's not afraid to kick, but he's a little bit like Arteta, where he can pass the ball. Not that Flamini can't pass the ball, but you know what I mean. And Vermaelen, last week someone was saying that who was on last week saying that Vermaelen was getting? Oh no, that was the message I got from Chris Haaland in Argentina. No, Chris Haaland in Argentina. He's down there teaching them to speak English, which is really good.
Chris Holland in Argentina.
No, the Norwegian Chris. Brought up in Brighton. He sent us he sent in the very first WhatsApp question, and probably the last, because he's the only him and Jeff are the other ones that aren't on regularly. The Jeff Hoolenfruden that can get to ask questions like that. I'm dribbling on now. You've put me off my stride. Anyway, Vermaelen playing really well, which is good to see, just in time for the cup final. That's a point someone else made on Twitter. Is it a sign of how bad Monreal is, the fact that we'd rather have a centre back playing left back than him? I thought he was injured.
But didn't I read somewhere that Vermaelen was actually considered a better choice at left back than Monreal, or were my eyes deceiving me?
Well, you're a better choice at left back than Monreal.
How much money has he wasted on left backs in the last couple of years? Monreal, good player, not worth, what was it, 6.5 million?
He had to buy
8 million?
The thing is, Gibbs' injuries record has proved that he had to buy someone.
Yeah, he's out again, isn't he?
Yeah,
Monreal is a good player. He's just not a good player in our system.
Would he be better off with 3 centre backs, John?
No, I'm saying, with the system that we play, Monreal is not the best, to if you want, get forward and get back. He can attack, and don't get me wrong, he's got the skills to link up play and make, plays to get people on goal. But when you're asking him to go back and forth, he's a one-dimensional player. You ask him to attack or you ask him to defend. In our system, he's just not a good fit.
But do you think he'll be here much longer? Or do you reckon he'll be going back to Spain?
I think he has to be. I mean, he's gonna have to adjust.
Oh, okay. I'll shut up now.
I mean, think about it. We have needs at other areas that we need to address before we ever get back, get to a backup left back, don't we?
Gimli has needs, but we're not going to talk about them.
No, definitely not. I steal them from
fish haberdasheries.
Yes. I'm not going to say the particular establishment, but we'll go over to John then. Do you think the scoreline flattered us in the end, John? Dom?
No, not really. I'm just looking at some stats now. We had 8 shots on target to their 2, and obviously one of theirs was a goal. I thought we did quite well. I'll analyse the game a little bit more in an injury sort of aspect where I was pretty impressed with the selection, to be honest. I thought it was good to have Oxlade-Chamberlain on the bench because he was carrying a bit of a groin niggle and he wasn't really supposed to play the Wigan game. So it was lucky and I guess good that he got through the Wigan game without much more than a bit of cramping towards the end. And Schaustrom played quite well in midfield because we didn't really have that many other options. Rosicky was only coming back from an injury not long before that. And bringing Ramsey on was probably a good thing, just because it gets some more match fitness in his legs. And it was only 20 minutes towards the end of the game when everyone else is knackered anyway. So I still grimace when I watch him run around and try to change direction and push off and stuff. So he's not out of the woods yet. He's still got a little bit to go before he's going to be up to speed with his full match fitness. But just on Giroud's goal, I think I just wanted to touch on that just quickly. That was unbelievable. If that was Nobed, Van Penis or Suarez, people would have had their dicks in their hands. It would have been a monumental wank fest by everybody about how amazing the goal was. So I think he's got to give that bloke some credit where it's due. He has struggled a little bit, but that was unbelievable, that goal.
Describe the goal, because I can't remember. I just remember it was...
There was a corner and it came back out to Vermaelen on the halfway mark. Vermaelen lobbed it back into the box and he kind of pushed through 2 of their defenders, touched it down with his left foot and slotted it home with his right foot.
Oh, yeah, I've not seen that in great detail. That does sound very good.
However, but with the good things, you have the bad things, and we mustn't forget that he missed an absolute sitter in the first half.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
He tried to FIFA it, didn't he?
No, I mean, I don't know about you, but we've got my missus's kids here for the week, and they'll be certainly going back to their father with some more choice words.
We've learned a new word!
Yeah. What's a cunt, Daddy? That's what we should call this podcast. What's a cunt, Daddy?
No, how dare you.
Right, but yeah, let's analyse that a little bit. Gav, he worries me in front of goal. Surely we shouldn't be relying on someone like that as our main striker, should we? Do you think maybe Podolski is a more of an asset for us up front than Giroud is?
I couldn't see Podolski playing up front on his own, how Giroud's been playing. But like I say, I do think he's better off coming in from the left, to be fair. But you just, like I say, he's not the sort of player that you want doing a lot of defending, a lot of tracking back. You've got to sort of appreciate that if you're playing Podolski, then he's better off in their half of the pitch and not ours. So it's kind of like asking him to do something which is a bit foreign to him, really, and that's probably why he struggled and why he gets taken off and why he's not had the energy in the box, I guess. But he is without doubt, he's got the best shot out of anybody in our team.
You wouldn't want to get in the way of it, would you?
Nah, and he's the most clinical as well. Do you know what I mean? It just all comes down to the fact that Sanogo isn't anywhere near good enough to be our second choice, and Giroud isn't good enough to be our first choice. But we all knew this about 18 months ago.
Indeed we did. We'll move on to happier places then, and we'll talk about the fact that Crystal Palace did a massive favour for us last night. John, they went out and they beat Everton, didn't they?
Well, yeah, Pulis, huh?
Manager of the year.
Who would have thought we could have relied on that swat
Baseball
to do us a favour?
I think I must have sent him a gift basket.
Probably had apples in it or something.
Something brown.
They're, another hard team to break down. And, Everton showed against us that they're willing to press up high, but can they really break down a team that isn't, bombarding their fullbacks forward and leaving their defensive midfielders exposed. Crystal Palace showed last night that if you just sit back and let them kind of pass from side to side, they're really not effective, are they?
No, I do think it's actually quite sad that we've had such a great season in terms of the league up until, say, New Year's. I don't think any of us at that point would have ever envisaged us having to look over our shoulders at this point in the season, asking Crystal Palace to beat Everton for us to get in the Champions League. I think that's quite sad, Dom. Don't you agree?
Yeah, there's been a massive fall off, I guess, from January onwards. Injury wise, I'm sure it'll come up a little bit later, but you look at some of the teams that are playing now with your Man Cities and some of the other teams. Like you look at some of the players that are out, even in world football. So I think one of the main problems is that we all just focus on Arsenal so much that we also just so analytical of our own problems, but you don't see the other problems that other teams are having with Yaya Toure out, David Silva out, and they struggled big time against Sunderland. So it's not exclusive to us, but the problem that we had is that we had our big injury fallout and everyone knackered too early in the season, and other teams are starting to get that towards the end of the season, which is quite understandable. So to me, that was our biggest problem, is that our injuries came all at once, but all way too early. That you don't expect it to come that early, basically.
And Gav, finally to you, we're back in the top 4. Can we stay there?
I can't. Like I say, I think we're going to go through the rest of the season. I think we're going to, we're not going to walk over every team that we play, but I can't see us losing another game for the rest of the season.
It's more a statement on the teams we're playing than us, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean West Ham. I mean they were halfway on holiday by they come out in the second half, and it wasn't the most dedicated West Ham team that I've ever seen. I mean West Ham normally defend for their lives, and they like playing against us. They like beating us. They like getting a draw against us. I mean, I remember one game we played West Ham. I think we had something like 40 shots on goal, and we lost 1-0. I mean, they do like, and they do sort of get up for playing against us, but it was a good time to play. We couldn't have picked a better team to be playing.
Do you know West Ham were the first team to beat us at the Ashburton?
Oh God!
I was
and the
there,
last team to win at Highbury.
And I took a West Ham fan with me to the one at the when they beat us at Ashburton, and when they scored, he got down on all fours, got underneath my chair, and was celebrating by slapping the floor because he couldn't let anybody know he was a West Ham fan.
Oh, I hear that all the time. Last team to win at Highbury, first team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the last team to beat us at Highbury and the first team to beat us at the Emirates.
Ah, fuck them, they're still shit.
Fuck 'em.
Right then, we'll draw a line under that then. As discussed earlier in the show, we have a forever growing injury list. I'd like to chuck it out to our panel to see if any of them can establish why. Dom, you are our resident expert on this. So we have a few questions for you, and hopefully you'll chuck us a few answers and see if we can get to the bottom of it. The first question I have for you really is, are our training techniques outdated?
It's really hard to know. I don't actually know what they do at the club as far as their pre-season training, their recovery after games, their preparation before games. Are they at the level where they're doing individual training for individual players and individual positions? That's all stuff that's all, I guess, just guessed on Twitter. That's the main problem, is that no one really has that kind of information to draw conclusions. I think what I can say is that the industry changes drastically and radically. You need to keep up, and you need to make sure that you're ahead of the game. The smallest little things can make a very big difference. So if they're still using the same techniques as they did even 5 years ago, it's really difficult. I don't actually know what they do there, but I would suggest that if they're not keeping ahead of the game and refreshing their ideas, then they're going to find themselves with the same problems, because other teams will.
Would you say it was down to the style of football that we play or the type of players that we have? Do you think because we have short, technical players, we draw more fouls, thus getting more injuries?
Yeah, I think Gav's brought this up before on the pod when I've listened, and I agree with him on this, that there's not one main issue for a start. It's going to be a multitude of different things that all contribute to the fact that we're getting. It's the soft tissue injuries that are the worry. The Theo Walcott injury is. I read something that I can't remember. Some so-called expert wrote that if he wasn't so fatigued after coming back so soon, that his muscles would have been able to contract early. Like, that's an absolute load of shit, because he was running at full pace and he chucked his leg across a player that fell on him, and that's going to rupture 9.9 out of 10 ACLs every time. So that's an injury that is just really unfortunate. The soft tissue injuries are the ones that are the concern. And again, it's down to a lot of different things. But yeah, with what Gav said, the players that we've got and the style of play that we've got, because you're playing the pass, move, and it's really, really taxing. And then the problem that you have is if you turn the ball over, then you've got to piss bolt back towards your own goal, and that's really taxing. So you're forever on the move. So you've got fullbacks bombing up the pitch and then having to turn around and bolt back down the pitch if they turn the ball over. It's so much easier to do what West Ham and Crystal Palace do, which is put 10 blokes behind the ball and just sit there for 4 or 5 minutes and then all counter-attack at once. So definitely the type of players that we've got and the style of play that we play is much more taxing for sure.
Mm. And it's been widely noted that we've brought players back too quickly from injury. I think that in the past we've had Wilshere that's come back and he's had, a couple of injuries in the rehabilitation process. I mean, is that par for the course?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said just before, it's something that you need to take a bit more of a wider look at, not just in Premier League football, not just at Arsenal, but in sport across the globe. You're paying these guys so much money, you want them out there on the pitch performing for you. So I'll go into Jack's injury just because it's just a good little... It'll give you a bit more of an idea of the whole rehabilitation process and how easy it is to come back thinking you're okay to only then have a setback. So I've seen a lot of criticism placed on the Arsenal medical team about that, about bringing players back too quickly. With Jack Wilshere's injury, he had initially, it was a stress fracture in his foot, and it was towards this pre-season game with the New York Red Bulls. There's a bone in your foot called the navicular bone, and if you get a stress fracture in that and it doesn't heal, it's career over. So Jack would have been feeling pain in his foot, and being the young guy that he is, getting used to being kicked around and running around a lot, he probably didn't say too much, to the point where it took someone to step on his foot and he realised, ouch, that hurts a lot more than it should. Then he goes and gets the scan and realises he's got a stress fracture, and at that point it's touch and go. So he's really lucky, to be honest, that he's able to continue his career. But then what you've got is a problem where he's stuck in a boot for so long, they have to put screws in there sometimes to try to get the bones to mend. And then it's basically he's running around with a joint not working and not as mobile as the other side. So it's like if I put tape on your ankle and restricted your movement and then made you run around for hours and hours, day after day, you're going to create imbalances. And that's where you start to get those reoccurrence of injuries. So that's where Jack's come into trouble a little bit, is that he had it at such a young age that he still, to this day, wouldn't have the same mobility in that ankle as he does in the other one, which causes imbalances, which then causes problems down the track. And that's really, really difficult to counteract. It takes a lot of time.
Before we go over to Danny, because I know he's got a question as well, do you think we could see any of the problems we had with Jack with Ramsey, or is it totally different?
I think... Well, are you talking about his broken leg or are you talking about his quad strain?
I'm talking about him coming back from injuries. Can we see him playing a part for the rest of the season, or do you think that there's a strong possibility he might pick up another niggly injury while trying to get match fitness?
Good question, because he would have had scans done weekly to see where he is physically. They would have done scans all the time to see how it's healed and how it's going. But again, that same problem with your biomechanics, where as he's recovering from that injury on his left leg, he's compensating on his right. So that's not to say that he might come back and say, yep, my left leg is absolutely perfect, it feels fine, but then he'll go out there and strain his right calf, and it is actually related. That's the issues, because he'll feel fine, but in that process of rehabilitation, he's been compensating by using something a lot more than he normally would, and that creates problems. So it's really difficult to tell. You look at Sergio Aguero. He came back from a calf strain he got against us and did a hamstring straight away in the very first game back. So again, it's not limited to just Arsenal. It happens all over the place, but it's also, you can't do much more than go, Aaron, do you feel okay? Yes, I feel fine. The scans are saying that he's fine. Well, I guess he's okay for selection. And then you've just got to manage him in that right way, where he played way too long against Wigan, and it was very relieving to see him on the bench for the West Ham game. I would have done Manana if he had to start that game.
Can I ask, Don? Yeah, sorry, mate. Just picking up on something that you said. I mean, I've always said that a player that's had sort of over sort of 6 or 7 weeks out, they come back and it always seems like they do the hamstring straight away. Yeah. I mean, is that basically what you said before, where one leg's compensating for the other leg whilst they're getting fit, or I mean, is there anything that can sort of stop that happening? I mean, shouldn't they be, running about in swimming pools and things like that a little bit more?
Oh, they definitely do. They do all sorts of different things to try to compensate. But like biomechanically, football's not an ideal movement. Even running's a degenerative movement. It's not healthy to run every single day for those kind of distances that you need to be able to be a professional athlete. So it is quite hard to manage the body, and some people can manage it better than others. So some people are going to find that they get through their careers never having a hamstring injury in their life, and other players, their biomechanics are going to mean that they're going to always struggle, like Cesc Fabregas, for instance. Sometimes it's linked with lower back, but yeah, definitely you've got compensation issues when you're rehabilitating injuries, and that makes things really difficult because scan-wise everything's fine, everything shows up okay, then you get out there and you're right. Quite often it'll be another soft tissue injury, a calf or a hamstring or something, because you've been compensating and having to use that side so much more.
But not only that, let me ask you a quick question, Dom. The fast twitch muscle versus, a muscle that's not used as much. In football, the overcompensation of the leg muscles compared to, another sport.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Footballers are putting their bodies in strange positions all the time. But this is an interesting thing I don't know that people are going to understand the fast twitch versus slow twitch muscle fibers. So I'll quickly go through. The easy analogy is you get a chicken and the wing of the chicken is white, which means fast twitch muscle fiber. And the legs of the chicken are dark meat, which is red. So they're slower twitch. So obviously the chicken's walking around all day, so it can do that. But then the wings work really, really quickly and are explosive, so that's where you get the white meat from. It's the same with the humans, where you've got fast twitch versus slow twitch. So definitely in soccer or football, you've got these athletes that are relying on repeat effort, and that's where people get into trouble because you're working under fatigue, but you're asking for an explosive movement.
That's like Danny, his belly's fat and his legs are all filled with mini cheddars.
There you. It's still, this after an hour, it's still 1-0 to Chelsea, 3-1 on aggregate, and Dan Crowley's just come on, so I expect him to score 4 and we'll be back in it.
But you've got a question, haven't you, Danny?
People have been asked, so many people have asked questions on Twitter about physio stuff. I've gone to my new favourite site, arsenalreport.com/injury room, and they have gone to the painstaking efforts of listing every single injury this season, how long they were out for, and what injury it was. So far, players that have been out for a month or more, there's been 17 of them. And I thought it'd be interesting if I asked Dom, go through all 17 quickly, and you just say whether the club could have done anything about this. Oh, they nearly scored. Right, so you've got Walcott's cruciate ligament tear.
No.
The club couldn't have done anything about that.
Nah, I don't think so.
Diaby, cruciate ligament tear.
No, not really.
Ozil's hamstring.
Yeah.
But
in saying that, Ozil he came off after 5 minutes in that game. He would have gone in tight. He should have said something.
Oh, good. Right. Jack Wilshere's foot injury.
Nah, he got stepped on.
Oh, so far, none of this is Arsenal's fault. Mikel Arteta, thigh strain in this was in beginning of August. So thigh strain, he was out for 39 days.
Yeah, probably.
The club could have done something about that.
Yeah.
Podolski, hamstring, beginning of August again during a match, 115 days.
Definitely with Podolski's. He was running full tilt under no pressure and his hamstring gave way, so that's not a good one.
So that's not the club's fault either?
No, definitely probably was.
Oh,
well, rather than fault, I would say that they should have it's definitely more likely that they could have prevented something in that way.
Well, there's Frimpong here, but that doesn't count because he was a twat.
Okay.
Monreal had an unknown injury in June. 52 days he was out. I don't know what that was.
Blame that one on Wenger as well. Why not?
Ramsey's thigh strain that he got around Christmas. 97 days he was out.
Tough one, but again, soft tissue injury, so you'd have to say he probably could have been managed through that Christmas period a little bit better, perhaps.
Vermaelen, lower back, and he got this in June in training, 89 days out. Was that a reoccurring one? Because I'm sure he had back problems before.
I think so. And that's the hard thing with backs. He could have a bulging disc that causes him issues all the time. He could have had stress fractures just from, like I said, just from running around and doing pre-season and putting a lot of repetitive stress on his body. So, again, some of it's players' fault as well, not necessarily Arsenal's fault.
Okay, this one it says unknown, but Santi Cazorla in September this year. What was that one? He was out for 32 days, said it did it in training. I don't know what that was. He was out for the beginning of the season, wasn't it?
He was, because we were all waiting for Ozil and Cazorla to play in the same team together.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he tweaked his ankle. So no, I'm not giving that one to Arsenal. I'll say that's just an accident in training.
Oh, we've got Zelalem. No. He was out for 46 days. It's unknown, so we won't bother about that one. Sonogo, lower back. He got this in September. He was out for 153 days.
Yeah, that was the one that they eventually came back and said that he was actually off doing some strength and conditioning training.
So he was pumping iron and he hurt himself.
No, I think they said that he hurt himself, but he hadn't really. He was just pumping iron.
God, can you imagine if he had all that time out doing that, how much of a streak of piss he would have been beforehand?
It's good though. Look, we sign a player and then we send him off to fuck off.
Yeah, that's right.
For like 6 months.
It's like, come in, do a job, but fuck off for 6 months first.
Okay, well, the next one is Walcott.
Another 6 months.
Abdominal tear in training in September and he's out for 59 days.
I think that would be a hernia, and they would have had a little hernia operation on that one. So, again, little strains and things like that can happen, especially in pre-season training where you're pushing pretty hard. So,
okay,
perhaps not.
But it also depends on the degree of the injury. I mean, like knee injuries, for example, have 3 degrees. So you could have something that keeps you out for 2 months, and you can have something that keeps you out for 18 months. Depends on the degree of the injury.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't take things like that into consideration. Then we've got Callistrom, Chalstrom. Nothing to do with us, that weren't our fault. Getting near the bottom now. Vermaelen knee injury in January. He was out for 53 days.
Again, when you're talking joints, usually it's a twist or a knock or a fall or something like that. It's a contact sport. These things are going to happen. It's the soft tissue injuries that the main concern where... The main, actually, to be honest, the one that's worried me the most was when Podolski was running down the wing. There was no one pressuring him or he was not doing any foreign movement and his hamstring just went. Yeah. And I think I saw a Liverpool player do that too this season. And they're the ones that you really got to be careful of where, at least with Ramsey's, I don't know if you guys remember, he was dribbling the ball and he was kind of getting tackled by 2 people at the same time. And so not only is he twisting and moving and he's putting his body under these sort of abnormal movements and he's tensing and stretching at the same time. So he's always going to be a higher risk of doing something when you're doing that. It's if you're just running along, chasing someone or just running along, dribbling the ball, doing pretty normal movements and something lets go, they're the ones that you really got to look at and go, hang on a sec, something wasn't quite right. So Ozil against Bayern is a good example of that.
So out of those 17 injuries that have been a month or more, 3 can't count because they were either youth team players or there before we got there. Out of the other 14, you only reckon 2 or 3 could have been prevented?
Probably a few more, but yeah. I think it's a lot less on the medical staff and even sometimes the fitness staff than what people think. It's an emotional game. We all invest emotional time and stuff into this. And it's like anything. When there's a poor result, when there's an injury, when there's anything that goes wrong, the first thing that happens is we all go, who do we blame? It's just one of those things. And it's like I said, it's not just restricted to us here. It's global with every sport. I'm sure, I've got a question for John later on about Cesc Fabregas regarding nearly the same thing, but you're always looking for a scapegoat or an outlet. So you have a few injuries and the first thing people want to do is blame someone. So there's different people that you could probably poke the stick at and you go, well, Ozil's injury, I from my experience, you don't do a hamstring 5 minutes into a game without going into that tight. But like I said to you guys before, he's just come off of the first leg against Bayern, not playing so well and getting absolutely hammered because we went down to 10 men and he was playing left back, and the media went absolutely nuts about it. And so the next game against him, he probably wanted to prove a point, and he probably didn't want to say, I've got a tight hamstring, I can't play. Can you imagine the media if he pulled out last minute?
Well, you know, I have a little bit of a unique view because I did my knee, and I did what it's called in the medical field, and I'm sure you know, it's called the terrible trio.
Okay.
You know, I did my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus.
Yep.
So you know, I have a little bit of background in it, but you know, that happens. You know, that's more like a walkout injury where there's nothing that you can do. Right. It was on knee contact, and there's nothing you can do. But stuff like, you know, soft tissue injuries where it's, you know, overtraining, overcompensation for another injury, or just, you know, the player being stubborn and saying, you know, listen, I can't today. And I think a lot of it, you know, everything being so media driven, when you read everything about, I'm worth X amount, I played shit last game, I need to make up for this match. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Like
that's
you said.
why I think Ozil probably was so reluctant to say anything to anyone. I'm just making the assumption, but in my experience, you don't go into a game and do a hamstring 5 minutes in if you weren't going in carrying something already. So you're exactly right. I think that he just didn't want to admit that he couldn't play because of the backlash that it would have caused.
Right then, we'll move on. Everyone that's on tonight has got their own little topic they want to talk about. Sorry, I know Gav wants to talk about the final tickets. I know John wants to speak a little bit about the recent embargo that's been placed on Barcelona, and Danny's got a little fun quiz, haven't you, Danny?
I'm eating again, you shitbag.
Oh, you're such a prick.
I thought there's no way in the world. I've just spoke to Dom for 10 minutes. What do you want? My okay.
Your list. No, we can do your list last. Is it mini cheddars?
No, I've gone off the mini cheddar. I've moved up to the full packs. I'm just scoffing an entire pack. I'm not eating yet today. Now my one was just I was arguing with the potato stealing shitbag Aaron on Twitter yesterday, and he was saying, "Oh, I grew up as a kid. I wanted to win the Champions League over anything." And then you and Gav were talking pre-pod. And we were saying, and Gav made the point that it depends how old you were. For me, I couldn't give a flying fuck about the Champions League. I hate the Champions League. It boards me shitless. It's just the media hype around it. All it is there for is money. There's no other reason there. Because the vast majority of Champions League games I've seen in my life have been shit. They've been boring. There's no atmosphere. There's no rivalry. Until you start getting into the quarter-final, maybe semi-final stages, that's when it starts to get a little bit juicy. So I thought I'll ask everybody, put them in order of importance when you've got the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup, or maybe even the World Cup of your national team. So, Dom, which one of those would you put first and second?
I'll go Premier League first and Champions League second.
And you wouldn't have Australia win the World Cup over any of those?
I couldn't give a fuck about Australia winning that.
Go on then.
We're just happy that we get there.
John, would you like to see Venezuela win the World Cup?
That's not going to fucking happen. World Cup of baseball, maybe.
So, what order would you put those? Your top
I always put Premiership first, Champions League second.
Go on, Gim.
Yeah, exactly the same. Premier League first and Champions League second.
Well, I think I'd go Premier League and then FA Cup, and I'll leave the final words of wisdom to our very own Mr. Grumpy Bollocks. How about you, Gav?
Oh, okay.
It doesn't need prompting.
I thought you were talking to somebody else for a minute. Well, I mean, the league's the important one, but it's not whether like I say. I mean, I'm not happy with how you phrased the question. Really, I'd rather win the FA Cup than be in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And if that's what you mean, then yeah, I mean, obviously, winning the FA Cup is more important than being in the Champions League the following season.
So if you had a Champions League final and an FA Cup final back to back, which one would you put all your players in to win?
Well, if I was a manager and I was being a selfish bastard, which you have to be in that kind of role anyway, then you'd go for the one which is going to create the most esteem and the most money, which is the Champions League.
This is a terrible, terrible thing about football, and I'm going to have a little.
Which is, like I say, everything.
Money.
Well, everything boils down to money. Do you know what I mean? None of us are any angels when it comes to that side of things, anyway. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to earn a pound note. Everyone wants to earn as much as they can to a degree, but it's just the fact that, when people when the manager puts becoming fourth place as a higher priority than actually winning some silverware, I can't get my head around that. That's where I can't get my head around.
Yeah, me too. Go on.
No, after you, sir.
I was going to say, people moan about the podcasts go on too long. I don't think any of us has got the slightest clue how long we've been going. We think, anyway, if you're looking at your podcast now, let us know what time we're on, because we think we're about between an hour and an hour and a quarter we've been going. So we're going to try and get the rest of this done in 15 minutes, so I'll shut up.
We know we have about 30 minutes that need to be edited, no?
Yeah.
Right, Gav, we'll move on to you then. And do you want to explain to us about the ticket?
The thing that's annoyed me most about the tickets this week was when our dear CEO, Ivan Gazidis, come out and said, it's bang out of order and we should have more tickets and blah, blah, blah. He sits on one of the panels on the FA. Why didn't he bring this up at the start of the season? Why didn't he have a word with everybody else about, for ticket allocation? I've read two good blogs on all this week. One of them was on my own site, written by Kinos, shewar.com, where he basically, he said the same thing. The FA are really doing fans a disservice. The fact that Gazidis has come out and said this now, he's basically going into a fight that we know he can't win. He's going to have all the support behind him because obviously everybody wants a cup final ticket. But, when it comes to the real issues with regarding tickets, which is pricing, he's very, very quiet, and all he wants to do is put the fucking prices up. So he's been a bit of a two-faced bastard when it comes to that. The second good blog, which come out this morning, Thursday morning, which was on the ArsenalHistory.com, that really goes into the history with regards to it. And when it actually comes down to the history of FA Cup final tickets, it's always been like this. From day one, the FA have always handed out tickets to every single club, every single amateur club, amateur referees. It's always been like this, and it's not going to change. So everybody can have a moan up as much as they like about it all, but until all the top clubs say to the FA, until or basically threaten to sort of leave the competition, there's a fair allocation of tickets for the teams in the final, it's not going to change. And like I say, it's down to people like Gazidis who's in a position where we can actually do something and say something, not after the fucking horse has bolted. Do you know what I mean? Say something at the beginning of the season, try and make a change, because all that's going to happen, all the Hull fans, any Hull fan that wants to go to the game, he's going to get a ticket. There was more than double the amount of Arsenal supporters at the semi-final than there will be at the final. So it's all a bit wonky, really, but it's always been the way. And obviously the club don't help themselves with regards to their allocation. Everybody's got an opinion on how FA Cup final tickets should be allocated. And as I said, there's a few very, very good examples on the ArsenalHistory.com blog today, of all sorts of things that happened. I think the fairest one used to be before modern technology. And every time you went a game, you bought a programme. And in the programme, there was a voucher. And at the end of the season, if you're in a cup final, and there was 26 previous home games, you'd have to, on Monday, turn up outside at the ticket office with your 26 vouchers. And everybody with 26 vouchers would get a ticket. The next day, everybody with 25 vouchers would get a ticket. And in that way, the people that have consistently been to every game, not just paid for a season ticket and not used it or rented it out to their mates all year, they would actually get a cup final ticket.
Weren't they all the vouchers numbered as well? You couldn't just turn up on the last day of the season and buy 26 programmes.
The first game of the season, the first game of the season, it was voucher 1 in the back. The second game of the season, it was voucher 2, and blah, blah, blah. And it would be every single game. It would be the League Cup games as well as the FA Cup games, every single home game. But like I say, the thing is, when it comes to discussing how the club should allocate cup final tickets, it literally depends who you're speaking to and what membership they've got. to what opinion? Everybody's got an opinion which suits their own agenda, which is getting tickets. And the reason why this, everybody's going nuts over this is largely back to the FA and the fact that how they're set up, and clubs don't get a decent allocation for the final. But
do you think we have too many different types of ticket types? Because I remember earlier in the podcast I read out about the prices of tickets. I can't find it now. I was saying how much they were, and it just listed oh, here we go. Platinum, gold, silver, red, and junior members. I mean, there alone, that's 5 different types of members. Is that all the different colours?
And purple.
And bloody purple. So all these people are probably buying some of these things are free. Some of them cost about £17 per year, don't they? Something like that. I know next season, because I'm going to start going to the football again next season. So if you see me there, don't touch me. So it's going to cost me about £1,200 for my 2 season tickets, because I buy one and then my pusher gets in for nothing. I don't mean drug pusher. That's wrong, because Gimli isn't allowed in the stadium. Yeah, but the person who comes with me, theirs is half price, and I pay half price of mine. So it's going to cost me about 12, 13, 1400 quid, and then so I'll be going again. But I've got to get the purple membership, and then she said, I said, what other ones are? Then she said, well, there's red. Oh, pardon me, there goes the Pepsi Max and Cheddars. And said, there's all these different colours. I mean, back in the day, you used to either have a season ticket or you'd be a red member, wasn't it? And that was it.
Well, I mean, it didn't even used to be that. It just used to be season ticket or pay on the door. And then it went to season ticket and a thing called the ticket registration scheme.
Yeah, is that the one where they had 40 or 50,000 people on the list?
No, well, back then, no. I mean, when the ticket registration scheme first came out, basically you'd pay 21 quid for the year. Every time you bought a home ticket, you'd get £1 off. So if the ticket was 25 quid, you'd get it for 24 quid. So in theory, if there was 21 home games, the membership would pay for itself. That then got oversubscribed, and the club put on the ticket registration scheme waiting list. Now, when we moved to the bowl, the ticket registration scheme turned into silver membership, and the waiting list turned into red membership. And obviously, the disabled people got what's called the purple membership.
That's my favourite colour. How convenient.
But I mean, like I say, it's all relative to how many games you go. I mean, I think the club are being quite fair, really, when you look at it. But then again, I know silver members have been to every single away game this season, and they've spent more than the average season ticket holder has, but they won't be entitled to a final ticket.
So do you think they need to cut down on the number of different ticket types they do and colours they do and stop fucking around with it?
No, it's fair, because I mean, the idea initially, or one of the perks of a season ticket initially, would be that you'd be guaranteed a cup final ticket. Now the fact that, Wembley holds 25,000 for a cup final, and there's 40,000 season ticket holders, it kind of just fucks that up a little bit.
So any idea how many Hull are going to be bringing to the final? Because I don't think they've got a lovely new stadium out there.
Like so, I think their average gate is about 24,000.
So they're getting virtual 100% of their season tickets is going to get the tickets for their game.
Literally anybody in Hull will get literally everybody in Hull will get a game. It'll be
cash converters better watch out. They're going to be busy.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hull will probably get to the point where it'll go down to like a friends and family. So if you've got a season ticket,
people who've seen Hull on the telly will be getting offered tickets.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got a season ticket at Hull, it's likely that you'll be able to buy 2 tickets for it in the end. Do you know what I mean? But like I say, they used to with cup finals years ago. They used to sort of they used to adjust it to the average home gate.
Yeah.
So that if when you've got a club like Arsenal where it's we've got 57,000 approximate home fans every game, and you're playing against a team like Hull that's approximate 22,000 every home game, we should have that approximation with regards to cup final tickets. But it's the FA. The FA know they'll sell the game out. They'll get their money. Arsenal don't really give too much of a monkeys because they'll get their money as well. But so it's just a bad system really, and it's the FA's fault. If the FA really wanted to do something for the fans, then they would make sure FA Cup finals are like the semi-finals. Really, I mean they only moved the semi-finals to Wembley for the money anyway.
They pay for the stadium.
To pay for the stadium, and So like I say, really, there should be something. I mean, it's good that the FA reward people that work in grassroots football, and you've got to commend somebody who's a fully qualified ref who gets up at 9 o'clock in the morning to ref a junior game. But it's just too many of them, really.
If you can hear us giggling this, because as Gav's speaking, we're all playing word games in the chat window. I think Dominic's just put fuck badger. I don't even know what a fuck badger is.
Do you know what I like about this podcast sometimes? When you're having a decent discussion
about tickets,
about something that actually fucking matters to a lot of Arsenal supporters. You pricks are sitting there giggling your head.
Like you never do.
I agree 100% with everything you just said, Gav.
Yeah, that's why I've been asking you questions about these. Have all been playing fucking rude word hangman.
John, you were.
Here's the ringleader.
You were the one that just wrote Barnes in there. No, just lowering yourself to my level, mate.
So the gist of it, Gav, is when they're at the top, they don't give a fuck about the little people who support the game.
Well, it depends what way you look at it. I mean, the FA are trying to support and reward people that work within their organisation, which is commendable, but perhaps if they'd done that at the Charity Shield as opposed to what was the showcase game of any football season, it's just wonky, and it's always been wonky, and it always will be wonky, and unless all the top clubs get together and say to the FA, look, we don't want to play in the FA Cup unless you can sort it out for our fans. But they won't do that.
I think the problem just in general in sport from, the late 90s and early 2000s, it turned into a situation where you were trying to win championships, and it went from that to making money. And once you make, you take anything and make it about making money, it's going to distort the whole view of what it was before.
I think the problem with the FA Cup is it really, really is historical. And like I say, if please do read the blog on the ArsenalHistory.com that they put out on Thursday morning, because it really does explain that this has been going on for upmost of 80, 90 years, and there's been arguments and fights and all sorts, over FA Cup final tickets, which is a really, really emotive subject, because if you're paying your money and you're following your team for all your life, you want to see them play in the big games. That's the payoff for going up to Newcastle and seeing the team, capitulate after being 4-0 up. I mean, that's the payoff of things like that, is to go to the big games and to see the trophy being lifted. But like I say, the FA kind of see it as their, I guess, their jolly boys outing for the day, really. That's how they look at it, which is sad, really.
Definitely. Right then, we'll draw a line under that. And John, I understand you want to talk about the current situation at Barcelona and clear a few things up to the listeners.
Farsa, UEFA Lona. The bastards. No, well,
you live there.
Listen, I live in Sabadell, which is right up, outside the city. And last night there was fireworks. There was honking from cars driving by. The pub down the street, leaped into joy when Barcelona lost. So that'll tell you even the disgust that the Espanyol and Sabadell supporters have for their local club.
Good.
Basically Barca got a 2-window ban this, about a month and a half ago. Basically what they were accused of was, the transfer of youth players. There's only 3 scenarios, basically, which FIFA allows youth transfers, and one is the movement within the European Union, obviously, because you can get a job in any European Union country. So a parent moving their kid from France to Spain or from Spain to Germany, whatever the case may be, that's allowed. Also, if the family moves within 50 kilometers of where the country's border is, then that's allowed as well. And if the for example, if you're born in the U.S. and your parents get, for example, are working for Verizon, and Vodafone gives them an offer to come into the UK to work or to Spain to work, then that kid is allowed to transfer from their local team to the local team where their parents are stationed. But it cannot be because Barcelona buys their contract. So they found about 10 cases in Barcelona's La Masia where specifically these kids were and their parents were paid to come to the youth program at Barcelona. A couple of South Korean players, one from France, one from Nigeria, one from Netherlands. So basically, the crux of the issue is, for as famed as that academy is, it's all based upon kids that shouldn't be there. Another example that wasn't mentioned in a lot of the articles, but I know of, is an American, Ben Lederman from California, that they actually packed up their house, sold their house, did everything because he's on a 2-year contract at 10 years old, 2 years ago, to come in to La Masia here in Barcelona. So, the only place that they can appeal to is FIFA, which imposed the ban. After that, they can try to do what Chelsea did a few years ago and go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But I don't think that even that authority is going to go, against FIFA in the ruling. So we're looking at a couple of windows where Barcelona isn't going to be able to buy any players. They can recall players, they can change managers, they can do all that, but what they cannot do is buy players. Now, there's a little gray area there whether they can accept players that are on a free, but that's still yet to be worked out. So we're looking at a couple of windows where, Barcelona, that are actually on a decline at the moment, are not going to be able to sign any players to reinforce. And even at the goalkeeper position, you look at Valdez, that has stated that he was leaving, but even now he has an injury that he's going to be out for about 7 months. And Pinto, which we all know is basically Almunia with a ponytail.
He was fucking shit, isn't he?
What is up with that dude as well? He's one scary looking motherfucker.
And he's leaving as well. He's already told his teammates that he's off. So what do you do as a Barcelona player? What is Cesc thinking right now?
That's why we wanted you to talk about it, because we did a little survey earlier, and from our friend Mr. Burns, and we think his first name might be Monty, who is at Arsenal Burns, suggested Cesc no or Cesc yes, all because of the situation going on at Barcelona. And I know people say we can't fit him all in, but yeses were 61, nos were 31. So and it's never going to happen, but that's why we got you to talk about it. So can they?
I had a tweet last night during the game that I put that Cesc could have been the captain that brought A.F.C back to glory, and said he's a part of the team that's seen the decline of the FCB, Barcelona trophy haul. So I mean, I think he made his bed, and I think the cunt needs to lie in it.
Well, he did give up on the £5 million loyalty bonus fee, didn't he? Because he didn't show any loyalty.
He didn't show any loyalty because he wanted to leave. He went on strike to leave, and people hold him up as a legend. I think a legend, grows up in the system or is brought in as an unknown and retires in that situation.
Or a legend is a Dennis Bergkamp as well.
Or an Henry that gives you gives you a goodbye, tells you to your face, cries, has come back when he's had the opportunity to come back. I just think that, I like his talent. He's a very talented player. He gave everything he did for us, and that's great. The way he left is something that we've talked about here with FK, because FK absolutely loves him. It's something.
Hey, stop being politically correct.
I'm not negating anything that Cesc has done for the club or did while he was here, except for maybe the back heel to Iniesta in the Champions League. But besides that, leaving under strike, I don't want him back. We have Ozil. Let's sign a striker. Let's sign a winger. Let's sign a defensive midfielder, and let's right our ship.
So can you get across in less than 5 minutes? 'Cause we're running out of time. Why? What's happening to Barcelona at the moment? Why has it all gone tits up?
Because teams have learned that they can sit back, let them pass side to side, have a strong back four, and counter, which is what we did effectively before, injuries, hampered one of our Champions League ties with them, and just a total lack of having bodies available. If you look at a couple of years ago, Ruben Kazan, they beat them once and they drew. Just sitting back, letting them attack, side to side, making sure that they had a line where they couldn't run in behind, and one person, let them be on side. They just were very disciplined and they counterattacked them. And I think every team, they know that if they can have a disciplined back four, if they can have a pressing midfield, eventually you're going to get counterattacking possibilities against that team. Look at Bale last night.
And only having one centre back that can play and another one whose hair makes him look like Captain Caveman.
I mean, you look at that situation. Puyol is going off to MLS likely.
Which team? Any idea?
No clue.
Portland Timbers. That's where he needs to go.
Do
wonders for his hair.
Between Puyol leaving, Mascherano being a center back option, Mascherano as the more experienced one, PK hasn't been anything to write home about. Barca, I will tell you this: Barca as a youth player coming up from Barcelona B has been great.
Did he score the goal last night?
Yeah, it's a player that we were looking at actually, last couple of windows. But, they're in real trouble. And you have to think that even though Atletico Madrid will lose players, such as Costa, maybe Turan, they have a system in place that will make whatever striker is there successful because they work from the back front forwards. And then in La Liga, there's not many teams doing that, so that's why they're successful at the minute.
Is that where they got Torres from?
Torres was Atletico Madrid, so was Aguero.
Just imagine if they have to get rid of Costa and they get Torres in, do you reckon he'll do a massive job next season?
Forlan as well, before he went to Inter.
Falcao.
Yeah, Falcao. So, listen, Atletico Madrid, what I love about them is that they take what they've made and they will buy players to replace.
Rather than doing it the other way around.
And they've done so. You went from Forlan Aguero to Falcao. You went from Falcao, and now Costa is in that role, which they will make a mint on because they invested in him when he was nothing. I don't think he's suited for the Premiership, but somebody will pay for him, and they'll reinvest, and they will keep going forward. And as long as they have Simeone there, they'll continue to have a strong defense, a strong midfield that will press you, and they will capitalize on their counters.
Shall I do the questions then, Gim?
Yeah, if you want to just
four Twitter questions, you can each have one. First one to Dom. This is from Arsenal Lad, who is at Aussie Gooner Lad. So I thought I'd line you up with a fellow Aussie. Which striker is good enough for Arsenal and available? Personally, I like Cavani, but he'd cost nearly as much as the Emirates. Dom.
I would drag my bare nutsack over a mile of broken glass just to hear Cavani fart into a walkie-talkie. But it's never going to happen. So
you write that down, Gim.
I know, and that's even without him signing for us. He just wants to hear him fart into a walkie-talkie.
That's how much I rate Cavani, and I think he would suit our system perfectly. So there's talk of Mandzukic. I don't particularly think he's a bad player, but I just think he's too similar to a Giroud, and I think we need someone that gets in behind the defence to. But we went out and spent $42.5 million on Ozil, who's good at passing the ball to a fast mobile forward. So I don't really care who it is, but I just want someone that can get in and has some pace.
Good. Well, as we're running out of time, the next one is from Neil Grace, who is at ngracie1983. And just stick your hand up if you want to answer this, one of you other three. If we could keep only one current player and then build a team around him, who would it be and who would you buy to play with him? So who wants to answer that one out of the three that's left?
Ozil, and I'd buy Suarez to play up front.
Oh, see, you've gone straight in while the other two were thinking about it logically.
Fuck it, in a dream world.
Another Australian is Ahmet Benley, who is at Guna AHMET. He was, I think I spoke to him. Did he do a bit for the pod where he spoke in? I think he spoke Turkish for the Merry Christmas. He's in Australia.
Just before we go, have you told everyone the story about the guy that came on and said, "Oh yeah, I can speak Bangladeshi," right? And he goes, literally, this dude's. I'm laughing about it. Right? He goes, Daddy goes, all we want you to do is say just a Happy New Year from everyone at Bergkamp Wonderland, or a Happy New Year from all of us in Bangladesh. And he goes, "Could you speak in Bangladesh?" "Yeah, not a problem." And everyone goes, "Oh no, Happy New Year from everybody in Bangladesh."
I said, "No, mate. Do you actually speak Bengali?" He went, "No, not a word." I said, "I don't need you to do it in a fucking..." But he had a Cockney accent. I said, "Mate, that's not what we wanted."
The best listeners in the world. I applaud the lot of you.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, but you should have kept it in.
Out of John and Gav, this is from our good mate Brian Cahill. Is at Brian Cahill 3. With Bentless, Sagna, Fabianski leaving along with possibly Arteta, Poldy and Vermaelen, have we got anyone good to promote to the first team? So who wants to answer that out of you two?
No.
Bellerin. You have...
How close is Torrell, John?
Nabry.
Yeah, Nabry. Torrell, I mean, he was hurt for a good portion of this year. But if you remember, he was the most sought after that duo when they signed Bellerin and Torrell. Plezuelo as well, at center back.
Just signed, hasn't he? Signed a new contract?
He did.
Signed pro terms?
He did. I mean, you have a whole host. I like Olsen, Hayden.
Crowley.
There's a lot of players that we have coming up that could come in, and let's not say that they're going to be starters or first choice or anything like that, but they could contribute.
Oh, jolly good. Right, last question will go to. This is the one from Ahmet, who is at Guna Ahmet. And this is to Gav. It says, if we secure top 4, the game against Norwich, should Wenger rest the rest of the first team and give new players a run out?
Yeah.
That's that one done. Anything other than a single syllable?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it?
No, not with Wenger. Nothing's fucking obvious.
Well, no, of course. I mean, but of course you should. I mean, if we've got this fabled 4th place and, we're not going to lose anything by losing against Norwich, then of course you should rest players. It's just common sense, isn't it?
I got one for Gav. Gav, should we shoot more?
I think Podolski proves that one.
We had lots of really good questions, like people like our mate Flemish Schooner from Belgium. He was asking about the stadium and the tickets for the FA Cup guaranteed tickets and away points. And another bloke who is Rambo Eats Umlats Epitaph wanted to ask Dom a question about should players carry on, try and run off injuries, but I think we've covered all of that. Like, if they've got a knock, should they carry running it off? But I think we answered that. Is fuck no, they shouldn't. But Epitaph he's a weirdo.
We should start also this week with St. Totteringham's
countdown.
Watch. Yeah.
Could be this weekend.
So
it could be this weekend.
Could be this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a feeling that Epitaph could be our Jason after he's had a few shandies, because he does tend to get a little bit weird. He makes Jason look normal, which is hard.
Do you know something funny as well?
Is it you?
I'm actually penned in to go for a drink with the both of them.
Are you?
Yeah.
You will die.
No, I'm going to pick Jason up, right, and then we're going to go to Quimbran and meet up with him, and we're going to.
You'll end up at the bottom of a fucking. You'll end up at the bottom of a pool, mate. I'm telling you.
All it'll take is one Welsh joke, and that'll be it. God.
Yeah.
What, by them or by you? Because you're Welsh.
I told you, I'm already involved in a turf war. I don't need any more fractions with the Welsh.
There's only so much dog shit you can put under someone's door handle, isn't there? This is going on longer than it should do. I've got no idea. I think we're about an hour. If you're looking at your pod now, have a look. We should be about an hour and a half. If we're not, then we're very sorry.
Okay, so we'll end this then with some predictions then. And we'll go, Danny.
Hello. What do you want me to predict? I think the human race will be died out within the next million years. Oh, what, you mean football? Hull. Oh, we're away at Hull. 2-0. And I think the first goal scorer is going to own goal. No one's done that yet in the predictions league, and if I do that, I get a bonus 100 points.
No, I reckon if you predict correctly an own goal, then you get an extra 10 points.
But then I've got 11 possible players who could score an own goal. Yes.
You're only allowed to say one of them.
No, I can't pick the player an own goal. Just own goal.
No, you got to pick the player.
I don't know any fucking cunt players apart from cunty bollocks, do I?
Just say
10 points. 10 points if he says the player. 5 points if he says own goal, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, own goal. I could be on a winner here. It's like the
Gav?
thing.
3-1. And
Don't you dare say own goal.
I need the points as well, mate. If I said Santi with his head, do I get extra points? Yeah, 3-1, and I want an extra 5 points if Santi Cazorla scores with his head.
We're making up our own rules now.
We've got to win it.
John?
I'm going to say 2-0, Giroud.
Yeah, you get extra points if it cunt scores as well.
This week, I said 3-1 Giroud, and I said it in the WhatsApp group. I should get 5 points for pricking that fucking prick.
It should be if he scores and his goals to shot ratio is below 1 to 100.
And even what he pulled out of his locker on that fucking goal, that should be 5 points right there.
Definitely.
Christ almighty. Dom?
I'll go 2-0 and I'll go with Koscielny.
I'm going 2-1 Arsenal with Subo. Wagbo. Sagbo. No, Chambo. I'm going to actually predict that it's going to be a Chamberlain shot and it's going to ricochet in off Giroud's arse.
Are you going to tell people that we've often done the what's the moving and the shaking in the Spaniard? Do you want to tell them the new one we're working on?
I've forgotten what it was.
It's with our dear old FK. Where is he?
Oh, it should be what's a rocking and a shocking in a Dubai or something.
If we can get hold of him, we shall let you know.
He's never coming back. You do realise he's gone to Dubai. You do realise what the sex laws are in that country. I mean, you can't even get your legs out on the beach. He's fucked. He is absolutely fucked. Literally, he will come back. They would have operated on his penis and removed it through some jail term. He'd have been over there for 10 years. By the time he gets back, Arsenal probably will have won the league.
Or he's already got 6 wives.
Yeah. We've got loads of listeners in the, do you call it the Middle East or the UAE, or you know where you are? Give us a wave, hello. We've got loads of listeners over there, and loads of them have got really nice fucking cars, and I want to live there because I hate alcohol, and they've got really nice, flat, straight roads.
And it wouldn't bother you either, because you never get any skin out either, do you?
I haven't even got anything. In fact, I've got an anywhere. I used to have an outie.
And as for fornicating in public, that wouldn't be an issue either, would it?
Oh, I can't even fornicate. It's not...
Right, Danny, can we have your shout-outs for the week, please?
I don't have one, actually. I'll actually say, what was that epitaphy bloke, because he's quite funny.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, I should tell people how you spell that, because being Welsh, she's got no fucking idea how you spell shit. So where is it? It's right down the bottom of all my notes. It's EPPYTAFF. I've got it now. Taff as in Welsh.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. So what does the epi mean? No, I'm
because
not.
He's epileptic.
Is he?
EPL.
Oh,
no, it's because he's epileptic.
Is he?
Welsh, so his name is Epitaph. Yes, it is amusing. Not that he. Oh, I'm just going to shut up, Gav.
Yeah, two shout outs. The chaps that write the aforementioned blog that I've mentioned a couple of times earlier.
He knows.
One is at Royal Arsenal MRA, and the other one is at Guna_AK. They write a bit for the Arsenal programme and the Arsenal magazines that come out, and they're probably the most aforementioned history buffs when it comes to Arsenal Football Club, apart from the fact that they get the yellow and gold thing in the 50s mixed up slightly, but I'll forgive them that bit. But follow them. They write brilliant blogs about Arsenal's history, and obviously that's where a lot of the information I was given earlier with regards to the FA ticket cock-up come from.
And they should maybe be coming on in the summer for another one of their third history special with us.
Yes.
And if you go to our website, they did a tour around where Arsenal's ground used to be, and they did a whole day out with pictures and photos and write up, and that's all on our website. But we think it's going to be migrating to their website at any point now, because it's a fantastic job. Just go there if you want to learn a bit of history about Arsenal's old grounds.
Definitely. Is that you got done then, Gav?
Yep, done.
Fantastic. John?
Like me,
I don't
he
have
didn't
one.
pick anyone.
I have fucking nobody this week, to be honest.
No, you
I have-
love
I have-
nobody this week.
I love nobody this week, and on my Venn account, there's just been too many cunts. Fuck them all.
Well, I was going to say, why don't you give a shout out to all the 1,000 people that you've blocked?
Actually, that's up to 1,042.
You
And
can
they're
give a
all-
shout out or a moon.
No, I mean the amount of stupid people on Twitter it's amazing.
Thomas
It-
Rositsky,
it-
rock hands. Fuck yeah!
It boggles the fucking mind, the shit they come up with.
Oh, Dom?
I'm just looking through my Twitter now. I just found one guy that makes me laugh a little bit, North Bank Ben. At North Bank Ben. I wouldn't follow him if you want anything serious, but he makes me laugh.
That was me thinking that he was going to say my good mate Gunnar Gimli.
There you
Mike,
go with a German accent again.
it's not German at all. You'll listen to this back when you edit and you'll go, oh, that's quite a good Australian accent. My shout out this week goes to, on Twitter, she is at GoonerGirlKate, and the simple reason, because I've been a right cunt to her all week. Right, so I'd like to thank all the guests for joining Danny and I tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gimli.
And the tumbleweed rolls. So that has been a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Nanu, you cheddar munching sons of bitches.
I thought you were going to say you cheddar munching cunts.
No, I would never use that word on this podcast. We did.
That's
So
for me-
we
that's
should
for
have
me and Gav.
said hello to Jason, Raj, and Chris.
Oh, we should have.
We should have.
Hello, you miserable twisted fucks.
My shout out this week is for Jason, Raj, and Chris.
Yeah, get John to do it and go, the newest substitutes of a Bergkamp Wonderland.
I think that'll do. Can't bother to edit it. Just take that for what it is, ladies. You miserable bunch of
Yeah,
WhatsApp
if you could just remove my
They're-
thoughts on Hillsborough.
They're better than Bentner, Sanogo, and fucking whoever.